G'day, I'm Blxz and welcome back to Buzz Aldrin's Space Program Manager, probably episode 11, as we go to the moon. So a little bit of final R&D on probably the lunar suits here. Nearly 86% reliability. And it's going to be checked twice because there's going to be two people on the moon, if we get that far, of course. Provided nothing else fails before then. So we have a 92% average component reliability for the entire moon landing. Obviously the earlier pieces are much more reliable, the suits are a lot less reliable. 27,750 prestige earned on success. That's nearly more than a quarter of our current prestige, nearly a third. Here we go. Let's launch.
Stand by for status, airman. Go.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fire.
You are go for TLI, over. Roger, stand. We're go for TLI.
We confirm the separation here on the ground.
You are go for T&D.
Okay, we gotta go now, is that right? Affirmative. Okay, we're still doing a little work right here. Roger, understand. Can you give us a status report, please?
Quite a bank, we're separated. Pitched around about 6 degrees now.
Pacific Ocean, right? Bear, Tom, and Max there. Okay. All your systems are looking good. Going around the corner. We'll see you on the other side. Over. What does the old road look like? 60 miles. Over. Okay, Houston. The moon is essentially gray. No color.
You're go for undocking. Okay, stand by.
Okay, all flight controllers, gonna go for landing. Retro. Go, I don't go. I go. Hang on, control Houston. Go. Roger, copy. Surgeon, go. Capcom, we're go for landing. Eagle, Houston, you're go for landing. Over. Okay, stand by for pitch over. 40 feet down, 2.5. Picking up the set. 4 forward, just to the right level. 30 second half. Okay, engine stop. ATA at a descent. Very, very fine grained as you get close to it. It's almost like a powder. And step off the land now. That's one small step for man. One giant leap for mankind. Roger, we see Buzz going about his work. How's that for a final, we see Buzz? It does wave when you do that. Some of these small deflections, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, work stage, on ascent, proceed, ignition.
Houston, we have a problem.
affirmative. We have tolerance radar lock. Just something on EVR current range.
Roger, thank you. Sounds good.
You're going for it, Dr. Okay, stand by.
Go flight.
Flight Fighter, we're right on the nominal.
Roger, on a nominal.
Pacific Ocean, nice, fair, calm, on flash day. Okay. Still happy to be going back home and back to our home port.
It just puts chills down my spine. We've done it. We've actually landed a man on the moon and returned him safely to Earth. And as JFK said, we've done it before the end of this decade. Well, I'd love to leave the episode there, but we're only about 6 minutes in. So, let's keep going. Anyway, what's this? Soft landing on the surface of the moon. Okay, so the Soviets have landed a probe, a soft landing on the moon with a probe. So they actually have managed to, they're still testing. But we have landed a person and returned that person. Manned lunar landing. Here we go. The United States of America triumph once again. The first man on the moon is an American, confirming the technological and economical superiority of this great nation. Almost every human on the planet listens to the live broadcast of the lunar landing, causing an enormous prestige boost. You are confirmed as the NASA administrator, and Congress declares itself in favour of the sustained funding of the agency. The President of the United States invites you to the White House for an official celebratory event and privately proposes you to begin work on the building of space stations in Earth's orbit, of a lunar base, and on the manned exploration of Mars. Your fame allows you to establish partnerships with the greatest universities. NASA becomes the ideal workplace for academicians, researchers, engineers, and technicians all around the world. The Soviet Union denies the mere existence of its manned lunar program and now limits its ambitions to flight in Earth's orbit and to a robotic program of space exploration. Only Eastern Europe, China, Vietnam, North Korea, and Cuba stay within the Soviet Union's sphere of influence, and at the cost of strict law enforcement. The Eastern Bloc becomes geopolitically and economically isolated, leading to a slow decline. The United States and the United Kingdom strengthen their prosperous market economy, while Western Europe organizes itself and becomes a full economic partner. Numerous rising countries in Africa, Asia, and South America become exclusive investment markets. You are awarded the NASA Distinguished Service Medal and to become one of the men in the nation that have the most influence on internal politics. Alrighty then. Prestige, huge. Universal goals, 19. So we did most of the direct moon ones out of total 56. Successful missions 25 with 1 failure, which is a little bit unfortunate. We have 20 active personnel, one of them was fired, 33 flight crew and flight controllers, and 3 fallen flight crew. Our advanced training over the course of the game has cost us nearly 40,000 space dollars, mega dollars, and the salaries of all our staff have cost us 95,000. Total mission components cost us more than 218,000 over the course of the game. This Distinguished Service Medal you actually get a different medal and a different ending story. So we got there the ultimate, you know, Western triumph story, and that's based on how early you actually get the mission. So if you can beat the historical date or match the historical date, you get that really good one. If you're a couple of years after, so before 1971 I think, then you get a mid-range sort of event, and if you get one much later, you get a very minor medal and I guess a mild victory. You know, maybe you don't become leader of the free world or something like that, but you show those Russians a thing or two. Something minor like that. In terms of robotic goals, we actually didn't do very much at all. We did a lunar flyby and a lunar orbiter to actually get a couple of the prerequisites to make it a little easier, but we didn't do a lunar impactor for study, and we did none of the other external probes, which I may do later after this, now that we've got some freed up people. But first of all, I want to focus on the rest of our manned goals. So we have done all these major things. We still haven't docked in space technically, even though the lunar modules require a docking. It's two separate vehicles need to be docked, and so that's a little bit separate. And we haven't done a crew transfer either. So launch someone up in one and bring them down in another vehicle. But we have done all the extended duration medals, obviously going to the moon. Well, actually no, we haven't done them all. There are extra long ones as well, but we've done up to level 1 and 2, which is sufficient to get to the moon. So, now that we've done that, we have a whole bunch of unemployed people with nothing to do. So let's continue going. Project Apollo actually has one more mission at the end. We're deploying a rover, which is some of the later Apollo missions. Our rover, however, is still under development. Excuse me. And so we are not able to launch it just yet. Well, we can launch it, but it probably won't work very well, and we'll leave our people stranded on the moon somehow. So what we're going to do in the meantime is focus on testing and preparing the other two modules. So the Gemini EOR, which is where we're going to be launching up a Gemini probe stuck on the back of this moon launcher, and we're going to then drop down a single person, a single astronaut, on a separate little vehicle, this thing here, the Langley Lander probe I think they called it, the Langley Light Lander, and that's like a kind of like a scaled up version of a jetpack. It's got these big tanks, and it's an open cockpit essentially. And the second one we're going to do, or the third landing we're going to do, is the direct ascent, where we're not going to bother around with all this mucking around up in space. We're going to send a really big probe out. It's the Gemini on top with a couple of big fuel tanks. This is our landing fuel tank. And then we're going to ditch that and use this remaining fuel tank to fly us back. And this thing is far larger. If you look at the size of this thing and that thing versus this, it's like a 2-story building almost, if not a 3-story building. It's quite a huge vehicle here. There's a lot of fuel on it and powerful engines. So this is just scaling up our Gemini program as opposed to developing new technology. So this one is probably the one we're likely to develop first. Actually, what do we need to test it in Earth orbit? It's probably a good idea. We will be using a Saturn V, and we can test this thing in Earth orbit now with the 2 crew modules we got here. Direct ascent test flights in Earth orbit. What's this one? So we've done the circumlunar test flights, so we can get rid of that. We don't need to test Apollo anymore in Earth orbit. Project Gemini is still there, although we probably we can do some docking or something later. I will keep that around. We don't need to test this one in Earth orbit anymore. We could do a manned test, but we've already done an unmanned one. That's enough. So we're now going to test these two in Earth orbit. So two groups, this one though, in orbital. So these are the two testing ones here, but I don't know what this particular one is. Let's have a look. Such as testing the heat shield again in a different way. Probably for the much bigger. So I see. So this one here is testing the EOR equivalent in heat shields, whereas the second one is testing the much larger. So that's the leftover bit. If I can't get that pop up, an annoying pop up. If you have a look here, it's annoying. This top bit here is actually the remainder of this bit here. So we're going to bring up these two programs for testing. We don't need to worry about the heat shield, and we'll open this program as well. We can test out a smaller, cheaper rocket, which is good, although this is a long way from being ready. And direct ascent we can only test on the Saturn because it's such a big machine, big thing. Alrighty. Now the payloads. I'm not going to bother with this lunar EVA thing anymore. I think we'll still use it for the direct ascent, but we're going to focus our people on, that's at maximum R&D at the moment. So we're going to work on this light EVA suit. Oops. So who are these for? They're human-rated rockets. You know what, I might train you guys in EVA suits so that we can cycle out our other people if we need to. Although you, Silas Bragg, not sure what I'm going to do just yet. I'll need to train people in space probes as well if we're going to smash out the remaining probes to Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, Venus, the Sun and Mercury. There's no support in game currently for these. There was talk when the game was being developed of adding expansion packs and different ways of getting to the moon, like for example an extension of the shuttle program, things like that, and going into the future a bit more, but nothing ever seems to have materialized in that aspect. But for the time being, we're going to focus on what we're currently doing here, which is the other two ways of getting to the moon. So that's being worked on very gradually. This one here is being worked on as well. Langley Light Lander is underway. The space target, I need that for something, I'm sure. And direct ascent, I'm actually going to focus on this direct ascent for the time being, because we're going to be testing that in the next couple of missions. I want that to be as high as possible. 2.5% by next term. And you can work on that thing. Okay. Alrighty. Now the rest of our crew here can start training and get your piloting up, get your piloting up. Oh, actually no, it doesn't matter. He was going to be my leadership guy, it doesn't matter. You can get your piloting as well. Terrible pilot. And you're actually pretty good overall. And make you a little bit better at EVA. So now let's launch our program. We want to test direct descent in Earth orbit. Schedule the mission. Pretty considerable chance of failure, but I'm sure we'll manage. These remaining 4 I'll probably need in the future, so I won't bother with them just yet. And well, okay, I'm actually going to call this episode here. 20 minutes in, nearly 21. That's a little bit shorter than some of my other ones, but we have successfully gone to the moon. We've landed on the moon. We've had a great big beautiful ending, and we're now in the after game. So 1968, the end of 1968, the NASA in this timeline managed to land a man on the moon, and it eventually led to, I guess, the collapse of the Soviet Union into what we know as the modern world. So I've been Blxz. Thank you very much for coming along, and I'll see you next time as we continue going to the moon in alternate ways and new technology. See you later. Bye bye.